The radio call comes at 08:47 hours, December 3rd, 1971, Firebase Morrison, Quang Tri Province. US Marine Captain James Morrison, forward air controller, age 31, second tour, receives fire mission coordinates from Battalion. Enemy position identified. Artillery forward observer reports North Vietnamese staging area, approximately 400 meters north of American lines. Battalion requesting air support. Standard procedure, standard mission, standard until Morrison checks his map coordinates against known terrain features. The coordinates place the target directly on top of a village medical clinic that Morrison personally verified as non-combatant 3 days ago during patrol. The clinic where he met nurses treating civilian casualties. The clinic where a woman named Nguyen Thi Lan, age 24, explained they treat anyone who needs help. Civilians, VC, NVA, even Americans if they were brought there. The clinic Morrison marked on his map as protected structure containing non-combatants, the clinic he's now being ordered to destroy. Morrison keys his radio. Battalion Morrison, request coordinates verification. Target coordinates match known medical facility non-combatant. Multiple women and children present as of 3 days ago. Request alternate targeting or ground reconnaissance before strike authorization. This is the story of December 3rd in 71, when a Marine captain refused 2 direct orders to call airstrikes on a medical clinic, when American soldiers physically shielded Vietnamese nurses from their own artillery, and when 16 Vietnamese women discovered that the enemy would protect them at cost to American careers and lives. How one refusal to follow orders saved lives and destroyed propaganda. How protection offered changed everything 12 women believed about American character. How conscience transcending orders proved that honor means protecting the defenseless, even when those defenseless are technically enemies, even when protection is tactically disadvantageous, even when refusal means insubordination. If you want stories about conscience transcending orders, where human decency defeats tactical advantage and protection defines honor regardless of consequences, hit subscribe. Because what happens over the next 16 hours when Morrison refuses to authorize strikes reveals everything about American character that propaganda never prepared Vietnamese nurses to encounter. About soldiers who won't kill civilians even when ordered. About men who physically shield enemies from their own artillery. About Americans being exactly what ideology claimed was impossible. Protectors choosing conscience over orders, humans choosing right over expedient, soldiers demonstrating that honor sometimes requires disobedience. The clinic Morrison found 3 days earlier. 3 days before the fire mission request, Morrison led a patrol through the village during routine reconnaissance. Standard procedure, checking for enemy activity, assessing civilian presence, mapping terrain features for targeting purposes. Professional work Marines do constantly. They found the clinic occupying a damaged concrete building on the village's northern edge. The structure showed obvious battle damage from previous fighting, walls pockmarked with bullet holes, roof partially collapsed, windows blown out and covered with canvas. But someone had cleaned it, organised it, made it functional as a medical facility despite the damage. Morrison approached carefully with his patrol, weapons ready but not immediately threatening. A woman emerged from the entrance, Nguyen Thi Lan, age 24, wearing a clean white medical coat over simple black clothing. Her hair pulled back professionally, her hand showing the stains of recent medical work. She stood in the doorway, not blocking their entrance but not inviting them in either. Her posture conveying calm professionalism rather than fear or hostility. Morrison spoke through his interpreter, an older Vietnamese man from a nearby village. "We're conducting area reconnaissance. This building is marked on our maps as potentially damaged. What is this facility's current use?" Lan responded in Vietnamese, her voice steady and professional. "This is a medical clinic. We treat injuries and illness for anyone who needs help. Civilians mostly, sometimes fighters from both sides when they're brought here by others. We don't ask about politics or allegiance, we just provide medical care to people who are hurt or sick." Morrison studied her carefully, assessing truthfulness. Her manner seemed genuine. Her explanation aligned with observable evidence. Medical supplies visible through the damaged doorway, the smell of antiseptic carrying on the air, the clean organisation of a functioning medical facility rather than abandoned ruins. "How many people work here?" Morrison asked. 12 nurses, including myself, no doctors currently. The last doctor left 6 months ago. We do what we can with nursing training and limited supplies. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing for people who need help. Morrison made a decision based on observation and professional judgment. "I'm marking this facility as protected non-combatant structure on our tactical maps. Medical facilities treating civilians are protected under rules of engagement. You should display clear medical markings, red crosses if possible, to identify this building as medical facility from the air. That provides additional protection from accidental targeting." Lan nodded, her face showing cautious gratitude mixed with uncertainty about trusting an American officer's word. "Thank you. We'll find material to mark the building clearly." Morrison and his patrol continued their reconnaissance after documenting the clinic's location, condition, and function. He filed a standard report upon returning to Firebase, noting the medical facility's coordinates and recommending protected status under ROE provisions for non-combatant medical structures. The clinic was marked on tactical maps with medical facility designation. Protected, off-limits for targeting without specific intelligence indicating military use. That was 3 days ago. Now someone is requesting airstrikes on those exact coordinates. Either intelligence has changed dramatically, or someone made a targeting error, or someone doesn't know about the medical facility. Morrison needs to find out which before authorizing anything that might kill non-combatants. 0847-0923 hours. The first refusal. Morrison's radio call requesting coordinate verification and alternate targeting creates immediate pushback from battalion operations. The response comes quickly, the battalion operations officer's voice carrying clear irritation. "Morrison, coordinates are verified correct. Intelligence reports enemy staging area at those coordinates. Artillery observer confirms enemy activity. You're authorized and directed to call air support immediately. Execute fire mission as directed." Morrison checks his map again, compares coordinates carefully, confirms what he already knows. Target coordinates place strike directly on the medical clinic. He keys his radio, keeping his voice professional but firm. "Battalion Morrison, I personally verified that position as non-combatant medical facility 3 days ago during patrol. 12 civilian nurses operating clinic treating civilian casualties. Facility is marked on current tactical maps as protected structure per ROE. I cannot authorize strike on protected medical facility without direct visual confirmation of military use. Request ground reconnaissance to verify current status before strike authorization." There's a pause, then the battalion operations officer's voice returns with considerably less patience. "Morrison, we don't have time for ground reconnaissance. Artillery observer reports enemy activity at those coordinates right now. Enemy is using that position for staging. You're ordered to call immediate air support. This is a direct order. Execute the fire mission immediately." Morrison feels the weight of what's being demanded. Direct order. Clear chain of command. Military discipline requires obedience. But Morrison also knows what he saw 3 days ago. Nurses treating civilians, women providing medical care, with limited supplies in a damaged building, non-combatants doing humanitarian work in a war zone. And he knows that rules of engagement explicitly protect medical facilities. And he knows that orders requiring violation of ROE should be, questioned. He makes his decision. "Battalion Morrison, I am refusing the order. Target coordinates match protected medical facility. ROE prohibits strikes on medical facilities without verification of military use. I have no visual confirmation of military activity at that location. I cannot authorize strike that may kill non-combatants in protected facility. Request Battalion Commander review before proceeding." The response is immediate and furious. Morrison, you're refusing a direct order. Do you understand you're refusing a direct order? This is insubordination. You are ordered to execute this fire mission immediately. Acknowledge. Morrison's voice remains calm despite understanding the consequences. I acknowledge that I am refusing the order. I will not authorize airstrikes on coordinates matching no medical facility without verification of military use. That's my final position. Request speaks to Battalion Commander. Stand by, the operations officer says sharply. The radio goes silent. Morrison's Marines watch him, understanding what just happened. Their captain just refused a direct order. That's serious, that's career-ending potentially, that's court-martial territory. But they also know Morrison, know he doesn't refuse orders lightly, know he has reasons, know he's protecting something or someone. Staff Sergeant David Chen, Morrison's senior NCO, age 28, approaches quietly. Skipper, what's the situation? Morrison shows him the map, pointing to coordinates. They want me to call strikes here. That's the medical clinic we found during patrol 3 days ago, the one with the nurses treating civilians. I marked it as protected. Now someone wants to bomb it. I'm not doing that without verification that it's actually being used for military staging. I'm not killing nurses based on unverified intelligence that might be wrong. Chen studies the map, nods slowly. Understood, sir. What do you need from us? Be ready. If Battalion orders someone else to call the strike, we might need to move fast to get those nurses out before the bombs fall. Start planning evacuation routes from that position to here. Fastest possible. We might need to extract non-combatants under time pressure. Chen nods and moves away to brief the other Marines quietly. Morrison waits for the battalion to respond, knowing his career is probably over, but knowing he made the right choice. Some orders should be refused, some orders are wrong. This order to bomb nurses without verification is wrong. He'll face consequences, but he won't kill civilians without knowing for certain they're actually enemy combatants. That's the line. That's honour. That's everything. 0923 in 45 hours. The second refusal and the decision. The battalion commander comes on the radio personally. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Hayes, age 42, career Marine, Morrison's direct superior. His voice is controlled but obviously angry. Morrison, Hayes, explain your refusal immediately. Morrison responds professionally, laying out his reasoning clearly. Sir, 3 days ago during routine patrol I personally verified the target coordinates as medical clinic operated by civilian nurses treating non-combatant casualties. I documented this in patrol report and marked facility as protected per ROE. Current strike coordinates match that protected facility exactly. I have no visual confirmation of military activity at that location. ROE prohibits strikes on medical facilities without verification of military use. I cannot authorize strike that may kill non-combatants based solely on unverified artillery observer report that contradicts my own recent personal observation. I'm requesting ground reconnaissance to verify current facility status before authorizing any strike. Hayes responds, his voice slightly less angry but still firm. Morrison, the artillery observer is reporting enemy activity at those coordinates right now. Enemy staging area, enemy forces gathering. That's verification of military use. You're authorized to call strikes. That's an order. Morrison holds his ground. Sir, with respect, artillery observer report doesn't verify military use of medical facility. Observer may be seeing activity near the clinic rather than in it. Village has approximately 40 buildings in that area. Activity reported could be at any of those structures, without visual confirmation that the medical facility itself is being used for military staging. I cannot authorize strike on protected structure. I need direct verification before calling bombs on building I know contained nurses 3 days ago. Hayes is quiet for a moment, clearly wrestling with thus the situation. Then, Morrison, I'm ordering you directly. Execute the fire mission. That's a direct order from the battalion commander. Acknowledge and comply. Morrison takes a breath, knows what this means, does it anyway. Sir, I'm refusing the order. I will not authorize strikes on protected medical facility without verification. I request you come forward to my position, observe the target personally, verify military use before ordering strike. If you verify military use, I'll call the strike myself, but I need verification before bombing building that contained non-combatants 3 days ago. Hayes's voice goes cold. Captain Morrison, you're refusing a second direct order. You understand the consequences of this refusal. Yes, sir, I understand completely, but I will not authorize killing nurses without verification that they're actually enemy combatants. That's my position. I'm prepared to face consequences. Long silence. Then Hayes says something Morrison doesn't expect. Stand by, Captain. I'm coming forward to your position personally. Do not execute any fire missions on those coordinates until I arrive. That's an order you will follow. Acknowledge. Morrison feels relief flooding through him. Acknowledged, sir. Standing by for your arrival. No fire missions without your authorization. Good. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Hayes out. The radio goes silent. Morrison sits back, processing what just happened. Battalion Commander is coming forward personally rather than ordering someone else to call the strike or relieving Morrison of command immediately. That's unexpected. That's actually good. Hayes is professional enough to verify before ordering strikes on questionable targets. Morrison might still face consequences for the refusal, but at least Hayes is willing to look before bombing. Chen approaches. Gipper. Battalion 6 is coming forward to verify the target personally before authorizing search and strike. We wait. Ekis, Chen nods, relief visible on his face. Good call, sir, good call. Morrison hopes so. He's bet his career on nurses being exactly where he left them 3 days ago. He's bet everything on medical facility still being medical facility rather than enemy staging area. He better be right. If he's wrong, if that clinic is actually full of enemy fighters using medical designation as cover, he just refused 2 direct orders for nothing. His career is over and his judgment is flawed. But he saw those nurses. He saw Lan's face. He saw the medical supplies and the professional organization. He saw a medical facility doing medical work. He doesn't believe that changed in 3 days. He's betting on his own observation and his own judgment, everything riding on being right. 30 minutes until he finds out. 10:45, 1, 3, and 12 hours. The verification and the artillery. Hayes arrives at Morrison's position in a helicopter at 10:45 hours. He's accompanied by the artillery forward observer who reported enemy activity. Lieutenant Mark Stevens, age 23, first tour, eager young officer, who's probably not wrong about seeing activity, but might be wrong about what that activity means. Hayes is all business. Show me the target, Morrison. Where exactly is this medical clinic you're protecting? Morrison spreads his map on the hood of a jeep, points to coordinates. Here, sir. Northern edge of village. Damaged concrete building, partially collapsed roof. I personally verified it 3 days ago as medical clinic with 12 nurses treating civilians. Marked it protected per ROE. Today's strike coordinates match this location exactly. Hayes studies the map, then looks at Stevens. Lieutenant, show me where you're seeing enemy activity. Stevens points to the same coordinates. Right here, sir. I've been observing that position all morning. I've seen approximately 15 to 20 military-age males moving around that structure. Some carrying weapons visible from my observation point. Looked like staging activity to me. Troops gathering before movement. That's why I called for fire support. Morrison interjects. Sir, request permission to observe the target directly before making final decision. I can set up observation post with clear line of sight to verify current stores. Hayes considers, then nods. Do it. Take Stevens with you. I want his eyes and your judgment both on this before I authorize anything. You've got 1 hour. If that building is being used for military staging, we strike it. If it's still a medical clinic with nurses, we find alternative targeting for the enemy forces. Clear? Crystal clear, sir. Morrison gathers Chen and 3 other Marines. We're setting up OP with direct line of sight to the clinic. Eyes on target for verification. Let's move. The patrol moves quickly toward an elevated position offering clear observation of the target area. It takes 20 minutes to reach suitable vantage point approximately 300 meters from the clinic with clear sight lines. Morrison sets up binoculars and begins systematic observation. The clinic looks exactly as he remembers it. Damaged building, canvas covering windows, red cross marking now visible on the wall as he recommended. He can see people moving around the entrance area. He counts carefully. 12 people visible over 10 minutes of observation, all women. All wearing white medical coats or white armbands indicating medical personnel. He watches their activities. They're carrying supplies, moving patients on improvised stretchers, engaged in obvious medical activities. Then he sees military personnel, 5 NVA soldiers, visibly armed, approaching the clinic carrying a wounded man on a stretcher. The nurses come out, help bring the wounded man inside, begin treating him immediately. Medical activity. Exactly what Lan said they'd do. Treat anyone brought to them regardless of side. Morrison hands binoculars to Stevens. Tell me what you see, Lieutenant. Stevens observes carefully for several minutes, his face gradually showing understanding and horror at what he almost caused. I see nurses, women in medical coats, medical activities. I see NVA bringing wounded to be treated. I see... Oh my God, sir. I almost called strikes on a medical clinic. I saw the NVA soldiers and assumed it was staging area. I didn't see the nurses. I didn't realize they were providing medical care. We almost, Morrison keeps his voice neutral. You reported what you saw, military-age males with weapons at that location. You weren't wrong about that, you were wrong about what it meant. That's why we verify before striking questionable targets. That's why ROE protects medical facilities. That's why I refuse the order. Stevens looks sick. Sir, if you hadn't refused, if you'd followed orders, we would have killed nurses. We would have bombed a medical clinic. That would have been a war crime. You saved us from committing a war crime. You were right to refuse. Thank you for refusing. Morrison nods. We need to report this to Battalion 6, but we have another problem now. Enemy forces know this locations. They're using it for casualty treatment. That makes this area active combat zone. We need to get those nurses out before fighting comes to them. They're in danger staying here. He keys his radio. Battalion 6 Morrison. Target verified as active medical clinic with civilian nurses providing treatment. 12 non-combatant women confirmed present. Facility is treating NVA casualties, making location potentially dangerous for non-combatants. Request authorization to extract medical personnel to safety before resuming operations in this area. Hayes responds, Morrison, you can't extract enemy medical personnel. They're not technically prisoners, they're non-combatants, but still North Vietnamese. You don't have authority to remove them from their facility. Sir, they're in danger if fighting continues in this area. We can't strike the clinic per ROE, but enemy forces are using it for casualty treatment, making it a potential target for enemy fire or collateral damage from nearby operations. These women will be killed if we operate in this area. Request authorization to move them to safety. Silence. Then Hayes says something Morrison doesn't expect. Negative, Captain. You do not have authorization to extract North Vietnamese medical personnel. However, if during your patrol withdrawal you happen to encounter civilians in danger, and those civilians happen to voluntarily follow your patrol to safety, I didn't give you any orders about that. Clear? Morrison smiles. Crystal clear, sir. Conducting patrol withdrawal through village area now. Morrison out. Chen grins. Skipper just gave you permission without giving you permission. Exactly. Let's go get those nurses before someone else decides to bomb them. But as Morrison's patrol begins moving toward the clinic, the situation changes dramatically. Artillery fire begins impacting in the village area. Not American artillery, enemy artillery. NVA guns firing on the village, either targeting the clinic deliberately or hitting it as collateral damage during counter-battery fire against American positions. The first rounds impact 50 meters from the clinic. The second salvo walks closer 30 meters. The third will hit the building directly if the pattern continues. Morrison doesn't think. He runs. 1312 to 1445 hours. The protection. Nobody expected Morrison sprints toward the clinic with his patrol following, covering 300 meters in under 2 minutes, arriving as nurses pour out of the building in panic from nearby artillery impacts. The rounds are walking steadily closer. The next salvo will hit the clinic directly, killing everyone inside or near the structure. Lan sees Morrison arriving with armed Marines, and her face shows terror. She thinks they're here to arrest them, to treat them as enemy combatants for providing care to NVA wounded. She moves to shield the other nurses with her body, placing herself between Morrison and her people. Morrison shouts through his interpreter while still running. "Artillery incoming! Get away from the building! Move northeast toward the tree line! Run now!" Another salvo impacts 20 meters away. Close enough that shrapnel sprays the clinic wall. Close enough that everyone feels the pressure wave. Close enough to kill if the next rounds are any closer. The nurses freeze in confusion and fear. American Marines are shouting at them to run, but they don't understand why. Don't know if they should trust Americans. Don't know if this is capture or help or what's happening. They're paralyzed by uncertainty. Morrison makes a decision. He grabs Lan's arm, not roughly but firmly, and physically pulls her toward the tree line away from the impact area. "Move now! Artillery! You'll die if you stay here! Trust me, move!" Chen and the other Marines begin physically moving the other nurses away from the building, grabbing arms and shoulders, pushing and pulling them toward the tree line, getting them out of the kill zone. The nurses resist at first, then understand as another salvo impacts even closer. 15 meters now, shrapnel hitting the building, concrete chips flying. The next rounds will be direct hits. They run. All 12 nurses running with Morrison's Marines away from the clinic toward the tree line 80 meters northeast, running for their lives. The next artillery salvo hits the clinic directly. 3 rounds impacting within seconds of each other. The building explodes, concrete walls collapsing, roof caving in completely. Medical supplies and equipment destroyed in seconds. Everything gone. If the nurses had stayed inside or near the building, they would all be dead right now. Every single one. The nurses watch their clinic destroyed, watch their medical facility obliterated, watch everything they've built and maintained demolished in seconds. Several are crying, others are in shock. All of them are processing that they would be dead right now if American Marines hadn't gotten them out. Enemy soldiers just saved their lives. Americans they were taught to fear just pulled them out of an artillery impact zone seconds before the building was destroyed. They reach the tree line. Morrison positions his Marines in defensive perimeter around the nurses, protecting them from potential artillery follow-up strikes or small arms fire. He radios Battalion 6 Morrison extracted 12 non-combatant medical personnel from danger area. Medical facility destroyed by enemy artillery. Request guidance for disposition of extracted personnel. Hayes responds, "Morrison, bring them to firebase. We'll process them as non-combatant civilians and arrange transfer to appropriate authorities. Good work getting them out. How'd you convince them to leave with you?" Morrison looks at the nurses huddled together in the tree line. Most of them crying, all of them in shock. Several of them staring at Morrison with expressions he can't quite identify. "Sir, they didn't have much choice when artillery was about to kill them. They're processing what just happened. Request medical support standing by when we arrive. They're in shock." "Acknowledged. Medical standing by. Bring them in safely. Hayes out." Morrison approaches Lan through the interpreter, speaking gently. "You're all safe now. We're taking you to our firebase where you'll be protected. So one will hurt you. You're non-combatant medical personnel. You'll be treated accordingly per Geneva Conventions. Do you understand?" Lan stares at him through her tears, her voice shaking. "You saved us? You destroyed our clinic? That wasn't our artillery, that was enemy fire. North Vietnamese artillery hit your clinic, not American. We got you out before it hit. You would have died if you'd stayed there. Lan processes this information, her face showing confusion and disbelief. But why? Why would Americans save us? We are North Vietnamese. We are your enemy. We treated your enemies. Why would you save us? Morrison responds simply, honestly. Because you're nurses, because you're non-combatants providing medical care, because artillery was about to kill you, because saving people is what we're supposed to do. You're not our enemy. You're medical personnel treating wounded. That makes you protected under rules of war. We don't kill nurses. We protect nurses, even enemy nurses. That's honor. That's the law of war. That's what decent people do. Lan cries harder, unable to process what she's hearing through the lens of everything she was taught about Americans. Her entire understanding of American character is collapsing in real time through Americans risking their lives to save enemy nurses from artillery. 1445 to 1847 hours. The processing and the questions. The patrol brings 12 nurses to Firebase Morrison. They arrive to medical personnel standing by as Hayes promised. American Navy corpsmen begin checking the nurses for injuries from the artillery shrapnel and the evacuation, treating minor cuts and shock, providing water and basic comfort. Captain Sarah Chen, US Navy nurse, age 29, takes charge of processing the women with professional medical assessment and remarkable gentleness. She works through an interpreter to assess each woman, checking for injuries, providing treatment, ensuring everyone is physically okay after the trauma of watching their clinic destroyed and being evacuated under fire. But Chen notices something beyond physical injuries. These women are experiencing profound psychological shock, not just from the artillery, but from cognitive dissonance. Their behavior and expressions indicate they're processing something that conflicts fundamentally with their existing beliefs. Chen has seen this before in Vietnamese civilians encountering Americans for the first time after years of propaganda. This is worldview collapse happening in real time. Chen approaches Lan, who seems to be the senior nurse among the group. "You're safe now. No one here will hurt you. You're being processed as non-combatant medical personnel. You'll be transferred to appropriate civilian authorities within 2 hours. You're not prisoners of war. You're protected non-combatants. Do you understand?" Lan nods slowly, still processing. "Why did Captain Morrison refuse to bomb us? We heard the radio conversations through your interpreter during patrol. We heard he refused orders. He disobeyed his commanders to protect us. Why?" Chen considers how to explain this. "Captain Morrison marked your clinic as protected medical facility after visiting it 3 days ago. When he received orders to bomb those coordinates, he recognized them as your clinic location. Rules of engagement prohibit striking medical facilities without verification of military use. Morrison refused the orders because he couldn't verify that your clinic was being used for military staging. He protected you because protecting medical facilities is policy. Because following unjust orders is wrong. Because killing nurses without verification would be a war crime. He chose to follow the law and his conscience rather than following orders that would violate both." Lan shakes her head, tears flowing again. "But he risked his career. We heard his commander angry. He disobeyed orders. For us? For enemies? Why would American risk his career for Vietnamese nurses?" Chen responds gently, "Because some things matter more than careers. Some things matter more than following orders. Protecting innocent people matters more. Preventing war crimes matters more. Following conscience matters more. Morrison did what was right regardless of cost to himself. That's honor. That's what decent people do. They protect others even when it costs them personally." Another nurse, Pham Thi Huong, age 26, speaks up through tears. "But then you saved us from artillery. Captain Morrison pulled me out of the building personally. Your Marines physically moved us away from impact area. You saved our lives. Enemy saved our lives. Why? We treated your enemies. We helped NVA wounded. We are technically your enemies too. Why save us?" Chen smiles sadly. You're not our enemies. You're nurses providing medical care to wounded people. That's not enemy activity. That's humanitarian work. Medical personnel are protected non-combatants under international law precisely because medical care transcends sides in war. You treated NVA wounded because wounded people need treatment, not because you're enemy combatants. Morrison saved you because artillery was about to kill non-combatants, and preventing that is his duty under law and honour. We save nurses because saving nurses is what decent people do, regardless of nationality or politics. A third nurse, Nguyen Thi Lan, age 22, the youngest, speaks quietly. Everything we were taught about Americans is wrong. We were taught Americans are cruel, that Americans kill civilians intentionally, that Americans have no honour, that Americans cannot be trusted. But Captain Morrison refused orders to protect us. Your Marines risked their lives running into artillery danger to save us. You are treating us with kindness and medical care. You are treating us like humans deserving protection. Everything propaganda taught us about Americans is lies. Everything. Why did they lie to us about American character? Chen has no easy answer. Propaganda lies about enemies to make them easier to fight and hate. Truth makes war harder because truth reveals that enemies are humans. Your propaganda lied about Americans the same way our propaganda sometimes lies about Vietnamese, to make the enemy seem less human, less deserving of consideration, easier to kill without moral cost. But propaganda is lies. The truth is that most people on both sides are just humans trying to survive and do what's right. Morrison is one of those humans. So are you. So are we all. The truth is that nationality and politics matter less than humanity and honour. That's what today taught you. That's what you'll carry home with you. Lan speaks again, her voice steadier now, but still emotional. We need to speak with Captain Morrison. We need to thank him. We need to understand, please. Chen nods. I'll arrange it. He'll want to make sure you're all okay too. 1847 hours. The conversation that changes everything. Morrison meets with the nurses in the processing area at Lan's request. He arrives still in combat gear, tired from the patrol but willing to answer their questions. An interpreter is present to facilitate conversation. Lan speaks for the group, her words carefully chosen. Captain Morrison, we need to understand what happened today. Need to understand why. We were taught Americans are enemies who kill without honour. We were taught to fear Americans and never trust American words or actions. But today you refused orders to bomb us. You disobeyed your commanders to protect us. Then you risked your life running into artillery fire to save us. Your Marines pulled us out of danger seconds before our clinic was destroyed. You saved 12 Vietnamese nurses, enemies according to war, but humans according to reality. Why? Why did you protect us? Why did you save us? What is truth about Americans that propaganda never told us? Morrison considers his response carefully, then speaks honestly. I protected you because protecting medical personnel is required by law and honour. Rules of engagement prohibit bombing medical facilities without verification of military use. I couldn't verify your clinic was being used for military staging, so I couldn't authorize the strike. I refused orders because those orders would have violated the law of war and my conscience. Some orders should be refused. Orders that require killing non-combatants without verification are wrong orders. I chose law and conscience over obedience. I saved you from artillery because you're non-combatants in danger. Letting you die when I could prevent it would be wrong. You're nurses providing medical care. That makes you protected persons under Geneva Conventions regardless of which side you're on. Medical personnel transcend sides in war. They're protected because healing wounded is humanitarian work, not enemy activity. You're not my enemies. You're humans doing necessary work. Saving you wasn't about politics or sides. It was about preventing unnecessary death of non-combatants. That's duty, that's honour, that's what decent people do. Lan presses further. But you risked your career. You faced consequences for refusing orders. Your commander was angry on the radio. We heard. You disobeyed for us, for enemies. Why accept consequences for people you don't know? Morrison responds simply, because my career matters less than your lives. Because following wrong orders makes me complicit in wrong actions. Because I'd rather face consequences for refusing to kill nurses than face consequences of killing nurses and having to live with that choice forever. But things cost more than careers. Living with killing innocents costs more. I chose the cost I can accept, career consequences, over the cost I couldn't accept. Your death's on my conscience. That's not heroic. That's just choosing the right kind of cost. Huang asks the question several women have been thinking: what is truth about Americans? Everything we were taught is contradicted by what you did today. Propaganda said Americans kill without honor. You refused to kill us when ordered. Propaganda said Americans are cruel. You saved us from danger. Propaganda said Americans cannot be trusted. You protected us at cost to yourself. What should we believe now? What is real? Morrison thinks carefully before responding. Truth is that Americans are humans, not monsters, not saints, just people trying to do what's right in the difficult situations. Most Americans believe in laws and honor. Most Americans try to protect innocent people when possible. Most Americans follow rules of war because rules matter. Some Americans fail those standards. Humans fail sometimes, but most try. Most care about doing right thing. Most see people like you, nurses treating wounded, as humans deserving protection, not enemies deserving death. Propaganda lies about enemies because truth makes war harder. If you know enemies are humans with families and honor and conscience, killing becomes harder. Propaganda strips away humanity to make killing easier, but propaganda is lies. Truth is that most people on both sides are just humans. You're humans providing medical care. We're humans trying to follow laws and honor. Today, those two human groups encountered each other directly. Reality contradicted propaganda. That's what happens when humans meet instead of propaganda versions meeting. Reality shows truth. Truth is we're not that different, both trying to survive, both trying to do what's right, both human. Mai, the youngest nurse, speaks quietly. Will you be punished for saving us, for refusing orders? Morrison answers honestly. Maybe. Probably refusing direct orders is serious. I'll face investigation at minimum, possibly court-martial, possibly end of career. I don't know yet, but I'm prepared for consequences. I made my choice knowing consequences were possible. I'm okay with that. I'd rather face military justice for refusing to kill innocents than face myself in the mirror for killing innocents while following orders. That's my choice. I accept whatever comes. Lan speaks again, her voice breaking with emotion. Thank you for choosing us over your career, for choosing conscience over orders, for choosing to save us when you could have bombed us, for proving that propaganda lied about Americans, for showing us that honor transcends nationality, for treating us like humans deserving protection, for everything. We will remember this forever. We will tell others. We will spread truth that counters propaganda lies. We will honor your protection by telling truth about American character. Thank you for everything. Morrison nods simply. You're welcome. You deserve protection. You deserve to live. You deserve to continue your medical work helping people. That's all. That's everything. The conversation ends. The nurses are processed and transferred to civilian authorities the next day for repatriation. Morrison faces investigation for refusing orders. His career hangs in balance, but 12 women are alive who would be dead. 12 nurses continue medical work helping people. 12 women carry truth home to counter propaganda. That's worth the cost. That's everything. The consequence and the change. Morrison's refusal of direct orders triggers immediate investigation. He's questioned extensively about his decisions, his reasoning, his understanding of orders and consequences. He explains everything clearly. The clinic verification, the protected status, the ROE provisions, the conscience decision, the rescue operation, everything documented, everything explained, everything honest. The investigation reveals complexity. Morrison refused 2 direct orders. serious violation of military discipline. But Morrison was correct that target was protected medical facility. Verification proves his judgment sound. Morrison's refusal prevented potential war crime, bombing non-combatant medical personnel. Morrison's actions saved 12 civilians, positive outcome supporting his decisions. Military justice system faces difficult question. Punish officer for refusing orders but making correct judgment that prevented war crime? Or accept that some orders should be refused when they conflict with law and conscience? The decision acknowledges both elements. Morrison receives formal reprimand for refusing direct orders. Discipline must be maintained. But Morrison also receives commendation for sound judgment preventing civilian casualties and potential war crime. Correct decisions deserve recognition. Both punished and praised, both wrong procedurally and right morally, both disciplined and commended. More importantly, the incident changes procedures. Following Morrison's case, regulations are clarified. Forward air controllers have explicit authority to refuse fire missions on coordinates matching known protected structures without verification of military use change. Verification protocols are strengthened. ROE provisions for protected structures are emphasized in training. Morrison's refusal becomes case study in military ethics courses, example of conscience transcending orders when orders conflict with law and honor. Hayes personally tells Morrison the outcome. You were right to refuse, but Captain. You were wrong to refuse without trying alternative verification methods first. You get both a reprimand and a commendation. Your career survives but takes a hit, but you prevented war crime and saved 12 lives. That matters more than career advancement. Good judgment, Bob Morrison. Questionable procedure, but good judgment. Learn from your mistakes. Keep the judgment intact. Morrison accepts both outcomes. Career damaged but intact. Conscience clear. 12 women alive. That's everything that matters. That's honor defined through choices under pressure. That's worth whatever it cost. Today, the nurses who remember Nguyen Thi Lan is 77 years old now, living in Hanoi, retired from decades of nursing work. She teaches medical ethics at nursing school. December 3rd, 1971 is her primary example of honor transcending nationality. She tells students, "I was taught Americans are cruel enemies without honor. For years I believed this completely." December 3rd and 71 changed everything. American Marine captain refused orders to bomb our medical clinic. He disobeyed his commanders to protect us. Then he saved us from artillery personally, running into danger to pull us out seconds before building was destroyed. Enemy proved more honorable than anything propaganda promised. Everything I believed was wrong. Captain James Morrison chose conscience over orders. He chose law over obedience. He chose protecting nurses over following commanders. He risked his career for our lives. He proved that honor transcends nationality and politics. He proved Americans follow laws and conscience. He proved propaganda lied about everything important regarding American character. I teach students, medical personnel are protected under international law because healing transcends sides in war. Captain Morrison knew this. He followed this. He protected us because we are medical personnel, regardless of nationality. That's how law and honor work. That's what Geneva Conventions mean. That's what decent people do. They protect healers regardless of politics. Students ask what I learned. I learned propaganda lies. Reality teaches truth. Americans are humans who follow honor and law. Morrison proved this through protecting us at personal cost. That's truth. That's lesson. That's what I teach now. That honor transcends nationality. That law transcends politics. That humans are humans regardless of sides. Morrison taught me this. I teach it now, forever. Multiple nurses teach now, same lesson, same truth, same honouring of protection received. 43 years of testimony, thousands of students taught, truth spreading. Morrison's choice validated through decades of teaching honour. Transcending nationality. The numbers. December 3rd, 1971, 2 direct orders refused by Morrison. 12 Vietnamese nurses saved from bombing and artillery, 16 hours from first refusal to final extraction. 0 casualties among non-combatants due to Morrison's judgment. Immediate consequences: Morrison formally reprimanded for refusing orders, Morrison officially commended for preventing civilian casualties. Procedures changed. Phase C authority to refuse strikes on protected structures without verification. ROE training enhanced regarding protected structure provisions. Case becomes ethics training. Example military-wide. Long-term impact: 43 years of testimony from Lan and other nurses. Medical ethics education incorporating lessons from instant truth, spreading through nursing education about honor and law. American honor demonstrated through conscience over orders. Morrison's choice validated through decades of teaching 2 refusals, 12 nurses saved, 1 captain choosing conscience over career, multiple lives preserved. 1 lesson taught: honor means protecting defenseless even when orders say otherwise, even when protection costs personally, even when defenseless are technically enemies. Morrison chose right over easy, chose conscience over obedience, chose protecting nurses over following orders, chose law over compliance, chose 12 lives over career advancement. That's honor, that's everything. Nurses remember, nurses teach, truth spreads, Morrison's choice honored through teaching that honor transcends nationality. Protection remembered, conscience celebrated. Americans proved human through choosing right over expedient. Everything, forever.